Ngayo. You know, where does Ngayo go? He's back in the green room getting green to come on out. And okay, and I'll be right there. Okay, you know, Ngayo. You know, is he any good with a name like Ngayo? He's got to be good.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Donnie Warshafter. Oh, Wisconsin Don. It's done for marijuana what Wisconsin has done for cheese. I don't even know what that means, but I thought we'd do that. Everybody's taking the pictures. Are you enjoying your Hempfest so far? I'm trying to remember what jokes to tell. I'm sure some of you may have seen me before, so it's the same jokes. Because I can't, you know, I smoke a lot of weed. This is international sign language, by the way, right? Everybody knows what this means. Anywhere in the world, everybody knows it. That's how far we've come with weed. You speak more sign language than you know you speak anyway, right? Let's go smoke a joint, right? Let me bum a cigarette, right? This one, never mind. But the point is, I'm just saying, it's not always, hey, I'm doing a show. I'm doing a show, loud people. Sorry, I'm giving a talk. There's less pressure to be funny if you're just giving a talk. I really enjoyed your humorous seminar on marijuana culture, Professor. I don't even know where I would teach. I teach magical plants at Potworts. That's what I teach. 10 joints to Spliffender. We all come out here. We love marijuana. That's the thing. Like, I can come out here. I don't even have to convert you guys. Sometimes when I'm on stage, I have to bring people over to the marijuana side, come over to the green side of the force. But you guys already know, right? Weed is the umami flavor. You guys really? They can't even hear me. It doesn't even matter. I'm doing a seminar. Hey, respect the panel. I'm paneling. I'm paneling. Paneling up here. Can someone roll a joint? I have marijuana. Somewhere. I always forget where I put it. For me, no, I won't throw it off the stage. I say, can someone roll me a joint? If you throw a joint to me, it's different, right? I found a loophole. Thank you. I'll just light it up. One of the reasons I love the West Coast is people here ask me if I want marijuana rather than if I have marijuana. You understand? Right? Everywhere else I go, people are like, man, you got any weed? Man, I don't know you. Yeah, all right, come on. I don't want a brownie right now because I'm talking to people. Once I no longer have to talk to people, I will eat all of your brownies. And then I'll have crazy hashish-laced dreams. What were we talking about? Weed. For me, weed is the umami flavor of life. You understand? Right? Weed is the soy sauce. Weed is the ketchup. Weed is the ranch dressing of doing shit. Right? Some shit is cool. You put some weed on it, it's a little bit cooler. Right? Maybe it's not cool at all. Dip it in some weed, it's all right. Right? I don't care to wash dishes, but I don't mind getting high and washing dishes. Right? It's actually very pleasant. It takes an extra hour because I have to make a plate. Thank you, Ed. Let's hear it for New Jersey Weed Man, by the way. Who says people in New Jersey are rude? That was very polite. He brought me a joint and a lighter. Now he's going to smoke it for me, right? I will pass to the left. That's delicious. Is that a... the terpenes. It's got some purpleine and some sizzling in there. Right? I can taste the Listerine. This is going to make your breath great. This has great effects on breath. Oh, look at all these older people. We're all getting old, right? Some of us been here. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. This is what I noticed. Weed keeps you cute. Old stoners are way cuter than old drunks. Right? You know what I'm talking about? That's what I'm saying. Everybody's like, oh, cute. Grandpa's hitting the bong again. Right? As opposed to grandpa's hitting your mom again. That's a completely different... That's why I like weed. See if I can figure out where it's from with my connoisseur palate. You guys don't do connoisseur? You don't sit around with your fancy pants, give some tasting notes? It's from New Jersey, right? This is Toledo. Was it Toledo window box? Yeah, that's the old George Carlin. Somebody from Bellingham. This is the old elephant and castle weed. It's the Bellisphere bud. Right? Someone swam over the river from Canada. I don't even know how you get to Canada from here. Practice. But everybody's fancy with the weed now. It's all like, oh, you know, everybody like has tasting notes. This delightful train wreck has notes of limonene and munchies. I don't know. People just make shit up. It's all so crazy. Who's in charge of naming weed, by the way? Do we need weed named green crack? Do you want weed that makes you act like crack? That's not cool. Let's change it up. Naming weed after people is also weird. My boy called me up the other day, right? He's like, hey, man, I crossed a white widow with a train wreck. I call it Courtney Love. That joke always kills in Seattle. Oh, take your time. Right? But people, there was weed named after Charlie Sheen for a minute. Charlie Sheen is not a weed head. Charlie Sheen is a crackhead. Would you smoke weed that makes you act like a crackhead? No, you wouldn't. I'm good on the Charlie Sheen. Do you have some Willie Nelson in the back? Perhaps. Right? Let me get an eighth of the Miles Davis. Right? A half ounce of some Jerry Garcia. Right? And a couple of grams of Snoop because I'm going to a party later. And we don't love these hoes. And there's Obama Kush. That shit gets you so high you stare off into space like a president. Thank you. Right? We need more minorities in the cannabis industry, by the way. Can you guys work on that? Can we work on that? You can help me fund my new business. I got a new business. It's a minority-staffed cannabis concentrates extraction company. Black Lives Shatter. I wrote that joke Friday. You can kiss my ass if you don't like it. Here, I'm hogging. Somebody hand that around. I don't want to be that guy. Right, all of a sudden you get revive the weed, the joint, and the microphone. Then I'm really just like, blah, blah, blah. You're like, that joint, I'll give you your lighter back, too. All right. Because I will take your lighter, right? If I leave the house with 3 lighters, I come home with 3 lighters. They're not always the same 3 lighters. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's conservation of lighters. Lighters are neither created nor destroyed. They just spontaneously generated at liquor stores and Costco's. You guys know what I'm high as fuck. I'm getting to that rambly point. See, there's probably some hash happened this morning. I just ramble. You ever ramble? Like, see, I can smoke weed and come out and tell jokes. I practice that. But hash makes me rambly like an old hippie. You know what I mean? You ever hang out? Well, those cats digress, right? It gets tangential. You know what I mean? You ask him how to make a pie, he'll tell you how to grow a tree. Right? Oh, you want my apple pie recipe, man? That's great. That's fantastic. We've been friends long enough. I think you're ready. The first ingredient is love. Listen, I know it sounds corny, man, but people don't say it enough, and everybody acts like it doesn't matter. And if you don't start with love, it's never going to taste right. So write that shit down first. You start with love, and then it's 2 cups of apples. I recommend a cross or a mix of the Fuji and the Pink Lady. The Fuji comes from Japan, which is interesting. It's one of the older variations. It started in Kazakhstan, which is the birthplace of all apples. I was in Kazakhstan one time after college because I followed the Silk Road on my vision quest, and it was there in this little hut that I met this cat. I think he was like a Uyghur or Uyghur or whatever, but he had this hash. It was all brown and crumbly and delicious and kind of spicy. It smelled like cinnamon. It's 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And you mix that. And it just went on for days and days and days. Let's talk about crust, brother. Follow me. I want to show you these seeds I got from my friend Running Bear. I met him at a rainbow gathering in Wyoming in 1982, and we stayed up all night, and we did psilocybin and mescaline, and we hybridized these gluten-free seeds, but they keep a flaky crust because the government's fucking up the food supply. Now, look, what are your intentions with this pie? Is this a pie of wooing or a pie of... It affects the nutmeg. Right? It took a week and a half, and it took me 5 years to actually make that pie. But it was the best pie I'd ever had in my life because I was finally ready for it, right? My tree had grown. I'm glad you stoners could hang on for the end of that story. I know it gets hard out there sometimes. Wait, what? How much cinnamon? I'm a good cook, though. I love to cook. I'm a good cook because of weed, right? Because I don't have a lot of money, so I will invent some shit to eat. You understand? If we have Bisquick and peanut butter, we got peanut butter rolls coming in 10 to 12 minutes. You know what I'm talking about? 12 to 14, really. I read the box. I looked in the pantry one time. We had marshmallows, margarine, and top ramen. I'm making ramen treats. They were hella good, too. Don't use the flavor packet. That'll fuck it up. It's not a savory dish. I'm glad you guys know what top ramen is, because sometimes you get an upscale crowd in Bellevue or some shit. I like to walk around Bellevue. People stare at me. Is he a Seahawk? I don't recognize that. Is he? Maybe he's a coach. He's kind of old to be on the team. But I say something about top ramen and they just stare at me like, brrr. Right? I had to break it down to a crowd once. I was like, well, y'all know cup of noodles, right? Uh-huh. Well, I can't afford a fucking cup. I'm just trying to get old noodles. You understand? All right. I see my homegirl Lydia Popovich is in the crowd. I may bring her up for a special 5 or 7 minute guest set. She's awesome. She's in town for the Hilarious Comedy Festival this weekend, which is happening at the Armory in the Seattle Center. On the 4th floor, you got to go up a thing and then behind a thing and then smell for the weed. And then that's the green room. And then the stage is right past there. And I'm doing a full-on headlining show up there at 8 o'clock, and there'll be other jokes. Don't think I'm exhausting all my jokes right here. I don't even remember my fucking jokes at this point. This is day 3 of the Seattle Hempfest, so I've been pretty much high for 72 hours. Yeah, right? You guys are like, woo, it's good for the arthritis. Right? Medical marijuana, I have my card. It helps my pretendinitis. I'm kidding. It keeps my stress levels down because getting arrested fucks with my stress. You understand? Right? It's an anti-inflammatory. Right? It keeps me from inflaming on people. Some of you know what I'm talking about. I love weed. I smoke weed all the time whenever I'm done. Just like, that's my whole thing. People are always like, pot smokers never do anything. I'm like, I always like to get high and then do something. That's always my, like, you get high and go to Hempfest, or you get high and tell some jokes, or you get high and get some booty or whatever. I don't care. The Smoky Pokey's great. But I'm saying, like, I'm on the golf course, high as shit, and nobody cares. Here's the secret about the golf course. The golf course is like a little tiny Vegas. You can do pretty much whatever you want. No one ever said, even in states where weed is illegal, no one has ever said shit to me about my incessant use of marijuana whilst on the links. And I don't think they will. What would they say? They're going to go over to the game marshal. Hey, that black guy with dreadlocks has a bag of weed. Yeah, that sounds about right. Right? You got a whiskey and a cigar. I got a blunt and a Diet Coke. It's a beautiful day. We are all having a wonderful time out here. Keep your head down. Right? One time, I'm out on the links in Sacramento. I got paired up with this random middle-aged white dude. It's me and him on the golf course, right around the 3rd hole. It was trying to smooth it out, right? Dial it in, lock it down, right? So I pulled out a fat hoot. I took a couple puffs. I did the neighborly thing. Hey, man, you want to hit? No, thank you. But do you have any crack? What? No, sir. And might I add, I find your presumptuousness somewhat off-putting. Because that's how I talk when I'm mad. I'm very precise. And secondly, who the fuck smokes crack on the golf course? What the fuck? That's not going to help your swing. You can't. Right drug for the right activity. That's my point. Right? Weed in golf makes sense. Booze in golf makes sense. Crack in golf don't make a lick of sense. You understand? You don't do a bunch of crank and go to a chess tournament. Right? You don't eat a bunch of mushrooms and try to run a marathon. What do you mean I'm off course? This whole planet is off course. I see through your whole thing, man. Why am I wearing a number? I'm not a number. Can't run a marathon on mushrooms. Take you 3 days. Just laughing and crying the whole time, right? Crying because your feet hurt and laughing because you're happy to have feet. That's how mushrooms work. They teach you the dichotomy, the necessariness of the yin and the yang. and why one must have a hint of the other. That's what it taught me. Some of you just dance around like assholes, which is also cool. You want to do a set? All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special treat. She took Uber all the way out here from San Francisco, California. She's one of my dear friends. She's doing comedy for a while. Killing it, smashing in the Bay Area. Like I said, she's up here for the Hilarious Comedy Festival at the Seattle Center tonight, and she's here for you right now. Give it up for Lydia Popovich!
Thank you, Ngaio. One more time for Ngaio Beelam in his green suit. Look at that gentleman. Love a man who dresses for a festival, right? Put your clothes on. I thought I was in colored theme, but, you know, I don't have a fucking belt buckle with a goddamn marijuana leaf on it. I need to step up my lifestyle. Hey, y'all, hey! That's my new greeting for 2015. I'm just walking out and just being quaint as fuck, like I'm from the South or some shit. Just, hey, y'all, hey! It's just better than my previous greeting, which is just like walking around completely engrossed within my telephone. When anybody comes remotely close to me, I just used to look up and yell, I don't have any money! Evidently, that's rude in Tennessee. Yeah, can't do that there. That's where I learned that. I was just struck by human kindness in the South. I think the South gets a bad rap. It's beautiful there, like it really, really is, but it's absolutely different from the West Coast. You will see shit in the South you'll never see in a million years on the West Coast. Case in point, I was at a Crowne Plaza hotel looking to park my vehicle. Couldn't find a place to park. And at first I was very confused as to why there was that many people in downtown Knoxville. And then secondly, I saw spots and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna park there. But I noticed that they had signs. So I drove over and the signs read, for ladies only. And I was like, is that real? Like, is this a weird trap? Is that novelty signage, like duck crossing? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not used to seeing that. And I thought about it for about 2 seconds and then I parked there because I'm a motherfucking lady, okay? But I'm no idiot, so I went in and when I checked in with the concierge, I was like, I've got a question. She goes, oh, sure, did you find everything that you needed? And I was like, well, I'm parked in a spot. It's marked for ladies only. Like, is that a real thing? And the woman looked at me with a genuine Southern smile. Her eyes just lit up with joy, and she was like, oh, I'm so happy you found that spot. Yes. We have just discovered that some of our female customers prefer a shorter walk into the lobby. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Like, is this the Southern way of calling me fat? Like, are you serious right now? And I was angry again for about 2 seconds when I realized I am absolutely one of those ladies that prefers a shorter walk into the lobby. Parked there all fucking weekend. It was beautiful. I like the South because it's just easier to eat. You know, like out here, I'm from San Francisco, and we have an incredibly precious food culture. And I know you guys have the same thing here, which is wonderful. Like, that's the beautiful thing about the West Coast is we've got gorgeous produce and vegetables. Everybody's very conscious about what we're putting in our faces. But sometimes you just want to go and sit down and order a meal and not hear the origin story of a beet. You know what I mean? Where you're like, some guy named Xander with a curly Q mustache and a row of neon bow ties is like, hi, I wanted to tell you about our beet special. Yes, all of our beets were grown in organic soil. They were plucked with kind hands. Yes. Each one was delicately washed in reclaimed rainwater, and then we sous vide it gently at 125 degrees until it was ready to fall apart onto a plate of goat cheese. Yes. Namaste. Namaste. You know, which is like beautiful, but like, can you just tell me it's a beet carpaccio salad and keep it moving? You know what I mean? Like in the South, everything you need to know about food is conveyed by a large lighted sign that just blinks facts. It's just like beef, pork, chicken, ribs, shrimp, all you can eat, family of 4, 1995. Like that's how people choose restaurants, you know, and if it doesn't have shrimp, it's not fancy, you know. I saw a commercial for a real restaurant in the town of Nashville, real restaurant, no words, opening slate just said, best restaurant in town. Then it proceeded just to have steaming close-ups of like hot tables, just almost erotic close-ups, like soft Vaseline edges like Barbara Walters style of macaroni and cheese, just like poof, poof, poof. And at the end, it had a simple Southern voice that said, if you're hungry now, we got food that's hot and ready to eat. That was it. Food's hot. It's ready to eat. And of course, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm just imagining how somebody from the city would fuck that up. They'd be like, well, like, how hot is it? Like, is it so hot it's gonna burn my mouth? Because I don't want that. I don't want that. You see, my husband's on this Ayurvedic diet, so like food can be warm, but it can't be hot. Is there any way to get the food warm and also ready to eat? Is that an option? Okay, we're gluten-free anyway. I can hate people. But we do love food trucks, though. That's a popular thing. Everybody loves food in a truck. Got to get on Twitter. Got to find it. Hope it's parked somewhere remote. Hope it's selling food that looks like it's fucked Mexican food to get there. Korean tacos, sushi burritos, deconstructed samosas. It's like, bitch, I see you. That's a tostada, all right? I'm not waiting in line, and I'm certainly not paying you $12 for that paper bucket and a fork. Not a fan of the food fusion, people. Yeah, food, keep it separated. You know? But I do love the innovation, and I like the idea of making a little extra money. So I've thought to myself, how can I get in this food cart game? So here's my idea. I'm going to get one of those station wagons with like 4 rows of back seats that your grandparents used to drive. And what I'm going to sell, gorgeous little artisan sandwich cookies, beautiful flavors, lavender and honey, marmalade and fig. But here's my twist. I'm going to lace them with meth. Yeah. And then my business is called Oreo Speedwagon. Yeah, super proud of that one. Thanks, very proud of that one. Combines my love of classic rock and cookies, you know? How can you go wrong? So I love words. Obviously, this is an amazing job to have, to be a stand-up comic and be able to stand in front of people and, like, I get to put words together and you guys get to be on board or not. Like, that's beautiful. Like, language and communication is beautiful. That was a turning point in humanity when, like, those 2 cave people realized that the grunts that they were saying at each other's faces could equate with emotions and they could express themselves. Like, that's gigantic, which is why it bums me out that now in our day and age, like, we don't respect language. Like, I'm in my mid-30s and I routinely get texts from friends that don't even include words. It's just like emojis, just like smiley cat face, a cloud of smoke, one of these. Like, what does that mean, you know? I don't even know if my friends' keyboards have vowels. Like, that's how bad it is. And when people actually talk, they don't use words that make a lot of sense. We hear a lot of idioms and phrases that don't make sense. Case in point, whenever I hear someone say, oh, last night I just slept like a baby. Slept like a baby. I just think to myself, do you have a baby? I don't know if anybody in here has a baby, but babies aren't so good at sleeping. Babies wake up because they shit themselves, all right? Babies wake up because they're hungry. Most of the time, babies just wake up because they're a stupid fucking baby that doesn't know how to do shit yet. Why would I, a full-grown adult, want to model my sleeping patterns after a stupid fucking baby? Doesn't make any sense. So I like to ask people, have y'all just seen a bum sleep? That shit's beautiful. If you haven't, walk yourself through like the shittiest part of town, Tuesday, 4 p.m. Just a little sea of concrete angels just splayed out everywhere. One shoe on, the other nestled under their head like an adorable little pillow. You can walk past them, spill your coffee right on their face. They aren't waking up for shit. That's the kind of sleep I want. I want to sleep like a bum, you know? Just 19 hours of narcotic-induced slumber sounds amazing to me, you know? But then I remember, he could just be dead. Don't care. Rather sleep like a dead bum than a stupid fucking baby. I went to college. I'm an adult. I deserve narcotic-induced slumber. My name is Lydia Popovich. You all have been fantastic. Let's bring back Ongo!
Thank you, Lydia Popovich. Traveling all around. That's what you get to do when you're a comic. You travel all around. I've never been to Japan. Do they have good weed in Japan? I don't know. I hear they don't roll joints. They just fold them into animal shapes. Bolagami. Smoke a pelican. No. Not, all right. You guys got quiet like I was about to putt. Let's legalize weed, everybody. Let's keep it legal. Hey, then listen, while we're here, let's legalize a few more drugs. Why not? Right? Why not? Drug abuse isn't a criminal problem. It's a social health issue. You understand? Right? If we legalize all the drugs, we're not going to end up with a nation full of addicts. Shit, we already have a nation full of addicts. I mean, it's not, whoever wants to do drugs in America right now can do drugs. Right? It's stopping drugs that creates the problem. You know what I'm saying? Right? Or staying on drugs once you get hooked. Like, I mean, listen, if we legalize heroin tomorrow, who's going to go out and buy heroin? Like me, I'm the only one, right? And I don't even do heroin. I'm just a good host. Right? If you want to come over, I also have a liquor cabinet. I don't really drink, but shit, if you want to have a drink or chase the dragon, whatever, it's Friday. I don't care. Everybody here does drugs. We're all on drugs. You're mostly on weed here or whatever. Maybe you had a couple drinks. Maybe you're on an Oxy or Metamucil. I don't care. Maybe you take yoga. Maybe you're on Jesus. I don't give a shit. Just handle your shit. That's all I ask. You do drugs around me. I don't care. Have fun. Let me know, though. right? If you're all fucked up on something, please tell me that you're on drugs so I don't think you're having some sort of weird psychotic break in your middle age or whatever. Right? Do a bunch of ecstasy. I'll buy you orange juice. I don't give a shit. I'll let you rub my green vintage polyester jacket. I'll give you the car wash treatment. Lean back, lean back. Right? You talk about the nature of addiction. I smoke a lot of weed, but I'm not addicted to weed. I've gone without marijuana for hours and days at a time in certain small Idaho towns, and I've never had a problem. My dreams are vivid, but that's about it. Right? But you try to take my cigarettes from me, I will stab you in your neck. Do you understand? Right? I smoke a pack a day, and it's terrible. And they're expensive out here in Washington. It's $10 for, I smoke the fancy organic. They're organic because I'm killing myself in a healthy manner. Right? Like an educated nihilist, existentialist. Right? I gave somebody, this is a little a tangent, I guess. I digress a bit. But I gave somebody bummed a cigarette from me the other day, right? And I handed it to her, and then I was half drunk, so I was all like, to your health. And she just looked at me, all crazy, right? But I don't know. Like every other drug you do has a ritual. Like you stand in a circle smoking a joint, there's always forever somebody bowing or pointing some shit up or whatever. Or when you drink, you toast glass or whatever. What do you do when you give somebody, optimism? Well, I don't know. What do you do? What do you yell? Persevere, fatalism. I don't know. We got to have something, right? You guys can't have all the fun. But the point is, I could quit smoking, right? If I had to live in Seattle, I probably would quit smoking because it's $10 a day, right? So that's $300 a month. Boom. You can put that money in a jar, right? $300. At the end of the month, you have $300. You can do whatever. You could go to Vancouver for the weekend or whatever. You could buy hookers and crack with $300. Listen, if you buy $300 worth of crack, hookers will show up. And they'll bring cigarettes, which is what I really want. It's been a month, and I'm kind of fiending on one, right? I'm good on the sex, but can you leave the Marlboros? That would be great. So that's really the nature of it, right? Some people will trade drugs for sex, and I will trade drugs for different drugs that I like better. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Am I just rambling up here? It's like I'm speaking French. Do I have many minutes left, Donnie? Because I'll talk till people tell me to stop. All right, 1 minute. We'll think of something to wrap it up. Oh, I have DVDs for sale over there, by the way. If you'd like to buy a DVD of my 420 Friendly Comedy Special, it's only at least $10, right? Right? It's $10. Unless maybe your cannabis club is doing great, then maybe throw me $20. You understand? Right? Maybe your meth lab is kicking ass this summer. Throw 50 at me. Try to get some karma back. Support the arts. I have children. They never eat less food. Right? Children always eat more food. You can never lower your food budget. When you have kids, you can be like, hey, this year you got to eat at your friends' houses at least 3 times a week. We're trying to save some money on the food budget. Why are you here? You're supposed to be eating somewhere Wednesday. I don't know why you're here. It's funny to me. Before I go, I would like to thank the Seattle Hempfest for starting it all off. Let's hear it for Seattle Hempfest, right? Thanks to these guys. 24 years later, this used to be the only thing, right? But now you could go somewhere every weekend. You can hit some shit. You could go to the Portland Hemp Stalk, the State of Jefferson Hemp and Music Expo, the Ann Arbor Hash Bash, the Boston Tea Freedom Rally or whatever they call it, the Olympia Peace, Love, and Pop Festival, the Missoula Hemp Fest, the Madison Hemp Fest, the Boise Hemp Fest, the International Cannabis and Hemp Exhibition, the THC Expo, the HempCon, the KushCon, the High Times Cannabis Cup in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, Portland, Denver, Amsterdam, Jamaica. There's a secret cannabis cup in Santa Cruz, Barcelona, Denver, San Francisco. I throw a cannabis comedy festival. It occurs to me that weed is the only federally illegal drug that people throw festivals for. Right? Right. Nobody ever goes to Meth Fest. Right? Like, hey, welcome to Meth Fest! Who stole the fucking sound system? All right, thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Hempfest. See you later.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Ngayo. Give a big hand. Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, we got 2 great panels. But first, I want to introduce a special treat. This is my colleague, Mr. Bill Panzer, from California here to sing you a song. Come on, Bill. Huh? Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, just sit down. Let me bring it. How y'all doing today? Want to do a song for you that it's the best cannabis song I ever heard. Written by a buddy of mine named Ben Scales out of Asheville, North Carolina. My wife would kill me if I didn't do it. Can you hear the guitar out there? Okay, and it's called I'm Growing Marijuana in My Yard. I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I've got little pots of pot spread out all over the lot. I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I got the seeds from Mexico. I stuck them in the dirt and let them grow. I put them in my garden with my peppers and my peas. Now I get all the smoke I need for free. 'Cause I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I put it where no one can see, so let's keep this between you and me. I'm growing marijuana in my yard. Well, I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I can't tell my boss or I'll get fired. I don't grow much, just what I use. I work all day and when I'm through, I smoke some marijuana from my yard. Well, I'm growing marijuana in my yard. I told my dear old mom it was Swiss chard. She put some in the salad, fed it to my dad. He said, that's the best darn salad I ever had. Now the policeman, he wants to talk to me. He said, how you gonna smoke up all that weed? He said, don't you know we're in a war? Money's what you're in it for. I'm gonna haul your ass downtown with me. And I said, hey man, what is it to you? How do I infringe on what you do? I beg your pardon if you're offended by my garden, but I just can't grow Prozac in my yard. So I'm growing my own medicine in my yard. I give some to my neighbor for his heart. I share it with my grandma. She keeps it from her son, 'cause we all know that stuff's against the law. Well, now there's nothing growing in my yard, 'cause the cops took all my land and both my cars. Now I have to buy my pot from a teenager in a parking lot who's growing marijuana in his yard. Well, anyone can grow it in your yard. I can show you how, it ain't hard. Never mind the president, let's overgrow the government and all grow marijuana in our yards. Let's all grow marijuana in our yards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Panzer, a brilliant attorney from Oakland, California. Do we have time for another? Just do it. Just do it.
All right. Hey, now every year long about this time it all gets dry. There's nothing around for love or money that'll get you high. Henry got pissed off, said he'd run to Mexico. 50 people waiting back at home for Henry's load. Now the road to Acapulco, it isn't hard indeed, and it isn't any better if you haven't any weed. Henry's trucking hard and straight on Twisted Mountain roads. 50 people waiting back at home for Henry's load. And yet he's rolling down the mountain going fast, fast, fast. And if he blows it, this one's gonna be his last. Road to Acapulco to turn the Golden Keys. Henry, keep your brakes on for this corner if you please. Henry got to Mexico and he turned his truck around. He's talking with a man who's got it growing from the ground. Henry tasted, he got wasted, couldn't even see how he's gonna drive like that, it's not too clear to me. And yet he's rolling down the mountain going fast, fast, fast. If he blows it, this one's gonna be his last. Road to Acapulco to turn the Golden Keys. Henry, keep your brakes on for this corner if you please. Now Sunday afternoon, Tijuana is a lovely town. The bullfights bring the tourists and their money's slowing down. Henry's fucking hard and straight in style. Henry's trucking right on through with hardly getting stopped. And yet he's rolling down the mountain going fast, fast, fast. If he blows it, this one's gonna be his last. Road to Acapulco to turn the Golden Keys. Henry, keep your brakes on for this corner if you please. Thank you.
Attorney Bill Panzer of Oakland, California. Thank you, Bill. All right, let's bring our panel up here. What about the children? Come on. What about the children? Come on up. Let's do it. Don't lose your audience. 1, 2. I guess that works.
Oh, here I am. I'm right here.
Vika?
I'm Becca. Where am I?
Right here.
Right here. Awesome. Thank you kindly.
I gotta get my chair back.
All right.
Thank you, Bill. Hey, what about the children?
Oh, here comes one.
Then you get my chair.
I guess you don't get a chair. You want to sit by
3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. Sunday, Hempfest at the Hemposium stage. I'm really pleased to welcome these speakers, none of whom I know. I'm Facebook friends with at least one of them, but that's about it. I know your work. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and explain this thing. This is about what about the children. We're here to talk about our vulnerabilities and our strengths. What about the children has been what's been against us since the 1980s, and Sue Rushdie in Atlanta figuring out that she could run a big campaign in the Reagan administration based on what about the children? And she had a winning issue for the while. But the whole thing's turned around. And we have an opportunity to take our greatest weakness and turn it into our greatest strength. And what's going on now with taking care of the children using cannabis is so profound, so profoundly in their face of all the lies that this is a really powerful question. So go ahead, any order you want, introduce yourselves, tell the audience what you want, and I'll help you answer questions here in a few minutes.
Do I start here? My name's Vicka Thompson. I encountered CPS last November when they took my 6-year-old son from my custody for 6 weeks, and I fought until I got him back, and I changed things in Washington State and federally, and I intend to change them quite a bit more.
Yeah. My name is Sierra Riddle, and this is my son Landon Riddle, and he was diagnosed with an aggressive form of blood cancer when he was 2 years old, and we lived in Utah. And Landon went through traditional chemotherapy and radiation, and it only took about 3 months until it was killing him, and he was reduced to 50% of his body weight. He was placed on a lot of narcotics. He was unable to walk anymore due to neuropathy, and it was just narcotic after narcotic, in between all of these chemotherapy treatments, and it was killing Landon. He was not tolerating it very well at all, and they told us that there was nothing else they could do for us. They gave us synthetic marijuana, Marinol, which didn't help Landon at all. And, they lied to us. We reached out, we got in touch with some people, and we found out about cannabis oil and what it could do for Landon. And we moved Landon to Colorado and put him on cannabis oil when he was 2 years old. And he's now 5 years old and has been very, very healthy ever since. And we were actually able to end chemotherapy and stuff early for Landon just due to his great success with cannabis oil. And, we just spend a lot of our time now trying to educate and get the word out there to people. Childhood cancer is an epidemic in our nation. 46 children a day are diagnosed with cancer. And unless, each and every one of us start standing up for these children, they're going to be overprescribed narcotics. They're going to be overprescribed chemotherapy and radiation, and a lot of them are going to lose their lives. A lot of Landon's friends have lost their lives unnecessarily, and a lot of them have suffered until the very end. And that's completely unacceptable when we have something that is a lot safer. And cannabis is safer for our children. And thank you guys so much for being here and listening to us.
I'm Megan Holt. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who started taking cannabis in late February. We were doing end-of-life planning when we were introduced to cannabis. My daughter has a terminal illness. It's called Zellweger syndrome. It destroys the white matter of the brain, and most kids don't live past a year, so she's already exceeded every expectation. We started cannabis when her disease started progressing and she started having seizures. She immediately wasn't breathing through them. They would last up to an hour. When we started cannabis, she went 8.5 days with no seizures. The doctors couldn't explain why. Even when she would have seizures, they would last 1 to 2 minutes. She always breathed through them. She started having kidney stones, and we once again started reaching out to our cannabis community, and we started giving her THC, and she went 3 weeks without seizures. She started using sign language again. She's come home, and she really is changing the way that a lot of the doctors think at her hospital. They're very open-minded, but now I've realized that there's more parents. I've met so many parents who aren't fortunate. They don't get educated early, and their kids aren't being treated, and they're dying of these diseases, and rare diseases like Madeline's, where there's only 4 children in the world living with it. What if we would have started cannabis at birth? Would she have become blind at 6 months old? We don't know. But I do know that everybody needs to spread the word that there's all these kids with cancer and rare diseases that cannabis is helping. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Krenzler, and I'm the father of brave Michaela Comstock. She's a very brave and courageous 10-year-old now. At 7 years old, she was diagnosed with T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Her mother, Erin Purchase, and I chose to treat her with cannabis oil, achieving a full remission from her leukemia in 6 days. And we subsequently decided to tell the world about it, hopefully to empower other parents to make the same decisions that we did. Thank you.
Yeah. Are we doing something? Is it up to us?
We're here to talk about Family Matters, what it means for a family who chooses to treat their child with cannabis oil or cannabis products. It's a very artist task to do because you got to go through a lot of regulations. You got to sift through a lot of people's contentious attitudes about it. I mean, a lot of people judge us for what we decide to do, you know, and so we want to come together to try to explain that research needs to be done to prove to them, physicians, attorneys, children's services, authority figures of any sort, that cannabis is actually a safe and therapeutic option for our children when things like Oxycontin and other opioid medications are very addictive and dangerous to be giving children that are still developing. It leads to addiction later in life, almost every single time. And that's something that we as parents all want to avoid. Nobody wants to raise a child that ends up being a drug addict. I mean, we want to raise very productive, upstanding citizens who can help lead the way for change in this world. We all hope to have, our children become leaders. And, if we give our children basically heroin, that's going to set the tone for their path if you don't guide them through it the correct way. We chose to give cannabis, which is not addictive, which gives healing therapeutic benefits every single time.
Yes, definitely. And, I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize is, we're not giving our children that are happy, healthy children marijuana. We're not trying to get our children high. Our children were on handfuls of narcotics that they wouldn't give any one of us if we broke 5 bones in our body at the same time. And they're on it 24 hours a day, and it comes down to that point of, what is the difference between addiction and dependency? Just because my 2-year-old isn't going to kick down your grandma's door for dope money does not mean that he's not addicted to that drug. Landon, even on good days, if I would skip a dose of Oxycontin or morphine, he would start withdrawing, and I would have to give it, even if he wasn't in pain. And that is no life for a child to live. He would be so high out of his mind that he would pick his skin off. He would pull what little hair he had left out. He would bang his head against the wall. I mean, it was just absolutely terrible. And it was terrifying for him as a child to not understand what's going on or why he's in these mass amounts of pain, but then also to give him, these drugs that are putting him literally on another plane mentally where he can't function or control anything. Our children get very developmentally delayed. Almost all of our children are developmentally delayed. They're very intelligent children. They're not dumb or anything like that, but they just have not, been able to develop along the right paths that, happy, healthy children can. And with cannabis, a lot of our kids are able to return to school. They're able to return to a healthy life because their immune system is kept higher and they're kept off of narcotics, which means less bad days. When you have a 2, 3, 4, 5, up as old as Brandon and Aaron's daughter, 7 and 8, and they go into steroid rages or narcotic rages, what are you supposed to do? They can't go to school. Nobody wants a child that's out of hand out of school, right? And it's not our children's fault that they are given all of these narcotics but then expected to act like an adult while taking a lot of drugs. That's just not, that's not reality for these children at all. And, Landon, nowadays, we've been here for 3 days, and he's only had cannabis in the morning and at night, not all throughout the day, and he's been absolutely fine, running all around. He doesn't get sick. He has absolutely no withdrawals or any kind of symptoms like that if he goes without cannabis. Can anybody say that for handfuls and handfuls of pharmaceuticals that they take? No, you can't. You have to take them every day or you will start to become sick, and just because we have legalized in different states, Landon and I came from Colorado where it's been legal for a good amount of time now. My son can't go to public school because he's under the influence of a federally illegal drug, and all schools are federal property. So there's a lot of work that we all still have to do because guess what? My child lived. He wasn't supposed to, but he did. And now things are going to have to change for all of our children to be able to move forward as happy, healthy children, which is what we deserve, and our children deserve that as well.
Absolutely.
I definitely agree with that. There is a lot of room to grow. My daughter when we started cannabis, I said she was towards the end of her life, and we were living at Seattle Children's and have been, even for treating more disease progression, even with cannabis. She came home actually 2 days before Hempfest, thankfully. We started THC, but she had been in and out of Children's for the last 6 months. And Seattle Children's is a federally funded hospital. They're very supportive of cannabis, but because they're federally funded, cannabis is not on her medication list. The nurses cannot give it. I can't talk about it with people unless they bring it up to me. Anyone that talks about it has to be an independent contractor of the hospital. So this means that every single day, I would have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and stay at Children's from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m. just to give her medicine 3 times a day. So for 6 months, my husband and my 1-year-old would sit at home and wait for me to come home. And that almost tore everything apart. And cannabis really has started changing some of these doctors. When we first started using cannabis, they didn't have to say that they weren't okay with what I was doing, but I'm not the type of person to have someone tell me that the proof is in her. We started using cannabis and she was fine. When I started using THC, the doctors had a social worker come into my house to make sure that everything was okay before she came home. And it's terrible to think that just because I'm using cannabis, I was looked at possibly being a bad mother. They have no idea that I'm OCD and my house is ridiculously clean. I have labels on everything for my daughter. I have lab results printed with every bottle in case someone tried to come into my house, because I dare you to take my child's medicine. And this is why there's so much more room. I'm very new to the community, but every parent that I meet is so passionate about more change, because I feel like the kids are going unrecognized because people are focusing on cannabis as recreational and as this joyous, wonderful thing that brings people together, but it's saving children's lives and changing the way that people think. I mean, my biochemical geneticist asked me for any information I had on CBD because my daughter's condition has so little research that the work that I have been doing with her in using cannabis has prolonged her life, and there's no explanation. Her disease is progressive. It destroys the white matter of her brain. It won't stop, but cannabis has stopped it. We've had 3 MRIs since she started cannabis, and she has no disease progression.
That's so cool. That's amazing. Okay,
Somebody have a question out there?
This has got to have provoked some great questions. Who's got some out there? Come on. So,
I think
yeah,
I think
that's
behind you.
where I was going, Kat.
I think she had a question right behind you, standing up.
Yeah, you go first. And then Kat.
How long do you think it'll take for the laws to change in terms of at Swedish or in any of the local hospitals? I understand that you're working with them actively as well, but how long do you estimate or anticipate for doctors to start prescribing and using it more regularly?
I think it's happening.
Yeah, honestly, it's already happening in a lot of states. In Colorado, Children's Hospital of Colorado just accepted quite a large amount of money to start a study on children that have epilepsy and use marijuana. But honestly, it's not going to change until every single one of us that have a sick child stand up and say something and say, hey, what do you know about cannabis? Well, you should learn, or I'm going to go somewhere else. Because that's what my child needs. And until enough of us do that, honestly, they won't, because every single doctor that is a federal approved physician, again, cannot touch it because it is a Schedule 1 drug. It is more dangerous than meth, according to the government. And we all know that that is very incorrect, but no doctor is going to put his license on the line for something that he already knows is federally illegal. And thankfully we've had a few doctors like Dr. Robert Malamine, Dr. Donald Abrams, Dr. William Courtney that have been willing, to do these things. But honestly, like I said, until enough of us stand up, until enough of us come together and demand it, it's not going to happen, because just the ones you see up here and the handful of other Canna moms and dads that we are in our little force, we're not enough. We're enough to get it to where we are today, but sadly, we are not enough to make these doctors change their minds. Every single person needs to demand, not even request, they need to demand that their doctors come to seminars and conferences and learn about the endocannabinoid system, because that is the only way, ma'am.
Yeah. And
Congressman Jared Polis and Earl Blumenauer both are working together to deschedule CBD and reschedule THC, and their petition is going to be going forward, I believe, during their next session.
That'll be, yes, that right there will be amazing, but until, it's rescheduled, I think we all know that nothing can be done. We can tell our children's doctors exactly what we're doing or how we're doing it. We have to take our own journals, our own logs, if we ever want this to be documented, because they can't do anything with it, and we still have a long way, but it's definitely getting to that point. I've been reported to CPS over half a dozen times for choosing cannabis over narcotics, for choosing cannabis over chemo, or whatever it is, because Landon does not need narcotics if he has high THC oil. Why would I give my son fentanyl or oxycontin or anything like that when I have anything from icy hot to capsules to candy with cannabis in them? He doesn't need it. But every time I deny it, they say that I'm denying him medical treatment. That's absolutely not true. How many times have a lot of us that are cannabis only, is what I like to say. We don't use narcotics. We don't use even ibuprofen, really. How many times have you gone to the hospital for whatever it is, and they are shoving those narcotics at you? They want you to take those narcotics home. And if you say no, they'll let you, but everywhere. Why we have such a high, it's because they are shoving it down our throats, and it's gotten to the point that now they're shoving it down our children's throats. So until we all stand up and say no, it's really not going to change or progress. We all have to realize that this is going to be a joint effort on all of our parts, whether or not you have a sick child. Because you know what? 4 years ago, I didn't have a sick child. My child was happy and healthy, and I had never heard the word cancer related to my son's name. But the day that he got cancer, that changed, and it shouldn't take that happening, me almost losing my child, for me to get involved in a cause. So please understand that our children's lives are important. These could be the next leaders, the next presidents, and if we can save their lives with the plant, imagine what we can do for everyone else. Imagine what we can do for our parents, our grandparents. I watched my grandmother die slowly and painfully of colon cancer that spread to her brain. And then 6 months later, my son was diagnosed. I had no idea that I could have at least eased her suffering, that I could have at least made an impact on her quality of life. And for a lot of us, quality is more important than quantity with our children. We don't want to have a child that's doped up and a vegetable going through medical treatments and not be there consciously with us. Cannabis allows that. You can still go through the same procedures, the same things in treatment, but your child is actively there. They're consciously aware of what's going on, and they're better able to handle it. A lot better.
Yeah.
Question here.
So assuming a parent makes the conscious decision that they want to treat their child with cannabis oil, I'm guessing that all of you have had radical, differently experiences on how you plugged into finding that oil, gaining access and or gaining authorization. There may be someone here who's interested in your experience with that.
Yeah, I definitely got very lucky early on. I'm very resource savvy, and I actually was already in a support group for parents of kids with my daughter's condition. And there was a family in Seattle that I reached out to that is not in the community because they're afraid. And they gave me the resource, Michelle Sexton. She's amazing. She gave me a list of naturopaths, and I called about 3 of them, and this woman I talked to, Dr. Katrina Liamshauser, she's amazing. She said she would work with us free of charge. I immediately started, I would say, posting on Facebook about it, and I realized that all these people, I had 3 people report some of our first posts that I said we started using CBD oil. It's amazing. Message me if you want to know more about it. And Michelle, we had become friends on Facebook, and she was like, you know, you're a very inspiring person. And I actually spent some time with a National Geographic photographer, and she helped open the door to this community of people who were willing to not only give me CBD for my daughter, but they educated me, and that was deep green extracts, and they really have given me more information than I would have ever thought I could have gotten in years. I mean, it's kind of crazy that I'll meet other people like this family that, like I said, they're living in fear because they have a very young, they wanted their child taken away. And for me, that's ridiculous. I mean, you know, we just want our kids to have a good life. And for my daughter, I know especially, I can't prolong her life, but I can make her comfortable. And that's one thing that I've always told the doctors, is that I don't want my daughter taking methadone. This is something they introduced right when I started giving her THC in combination with CBD. And they were very against me using THC. They said this will never work. She won't be able to be weaned on her medication. She's been weaned off of all of her narcotics in 3 weeks because of THC and stopped having seizures. You can't, I mean, I have pictures that I carry in my phone all the time to show people of my daughter on Easter intubated, which is where they put a tube down your throat to breathe, because she had had her tonsils removed and they gave her very heavy narcotics in the operating room, and she stopped breathing. She had to have an opiate reversal the next day. And when she was intubated, I put Kush cream on her throat, and she was extubated that night. Within 6 hours of putting Kush cream on her throat, she got the breathing tube out. That doesn't happen. And I think that more parents, I hate to see parents, I have parents that I've met, a lot of parents actually that I know that aren't in the community that want to be, but they're so scared and they have supply issues. And I've had friends calling me in the middle of the night whose kids are on cannabis, freaking out because their child is having an episode because they got contaminated CBD oil, and they're screaming and holding their breath and not breathing, and so they're having to drive to my house, which is a 2-hour drive, to get pure oil to help their child. That shouldn't happen. No parent should be afraid to give their child medicine. Every parent whose child is sick and has terminal illness or develops cancer should be offered cannabis first. It's natural. It has no side effects.
Yes.
Another question? Here you go.
So lovely, tree. I know, right? I live by a tree. My question is about CPS. I know that every family up there, except for Megan, has dealt with CPS. Our family, the first time we took our children to Hempfest in 2011, were reported to CPS just for bringing our children here. And that's unacceptable. I was hoping to hear from Vika a little bit about CPS and her case and what we can do to stop this horrible bigotry and judgmental views that are getting our families harmed by this governmental agency coming in and ripping us apart over the plant. And what do you think we can do? What should we do on this, Smith?
The first thing we have to do is reach out to our elected representatives, because it's the Schedule 1 is the issue and the UN treaty. These two things, just, we have to clear this up this year. Like, we can't move any further without that. If you call your congressperson or your senator and your governor, if you call these people, they'll listen to you. And if thousands and thousands and thousands of us call them, it makes a bigger impact. We've changed, all the changes that we've made have been through us reaching out to our government and demanding that we be heard. And the thing with CPS, there's a really new thing that I'm really excited about, a federal class action lawsuit to be filed in November from all the states to just end this. We need just so many things we need. We need for them to not be able to use hearsay. We need for our children to be considered humans and not property. Those two things alone would change everything. If we had lapel cameras on the intake agents, that would solve another 90% of the foster care. Because of the federal adoption out incentives, the foster care has to be robust and full. So they don't care if they're right or wrong. If they can take your kid based on what the law says, they're taking your kid. They don't care. So you have to make them care, and the only way to do that is scream when they're doing it to you. And eventually you get through it, and then you start, running for office and talking about it and saying to other people, I need you to help me. We need to reach out together to all of our representatives and all of our senators and everybody that you can think of. Every city council person, every person in the government is making this happen. So they can all make it not happen. We just have to lift the ban. It's really, really easy. So if everybody could just reach out, that'd be really great.
I want to add a little to that. Make sure to know your rights. That's the most important thing of all. You have to know your rights.
And then let me add to that, if CPS comes to your door, do not let them in. Do not cooperate.
Thank you.
Oh, I have some trouble with that statement. I have my lawyer.
Well, they don't have a right to come in. You can invite them in. But if you're doing what you know is right.
Yes, show them through the window. They've seen that
safety.
they're safe,
Yeah.
but you do not have to let them in without a warrant.
They're trying to take your kid. Yeah.
Very good. Here's another one.
Hi, I was wondering if I could make a suggestion on everything I'm listening to. It all makes sense on why the topic is being said at the point, but at the same time, when you're trying to get your point across in a positive way, all you're doing is bringing negative attention with anything. I know it's sad. Your stories are very encouraging, but all the negative, the CPS, everything you're talking about is bringing nay to the topic. Instead of focusing on the ones that are not on board, who cares about them? We are already winning. Focusing on the ones that are on board, there are all for it, publicizing them, helping them with funding, instead of wasting funding on trying to convince others to be on board. Realize everyone who's on board, forget about the naysayers. You bring in other drugs, that's got nothing to do with this conversation. And people that do drugs are going to be offended that you're putting down their drug and supporting yours on blast on 5th Street.
These are real issues that we face every single day of our lives. We risk intervention from children's services every single day that we give our child any dosing of cannabis oil. We risk our children falling down the path of addiction every single time we give them an opiate-based medication. Thank you.
That is a real risk. Yeah.
And I would like to say, I'm 27 years old. I've broken about 27 bones, and I had a hysterectomy shortly after I had landed. And I'm only 27 years old. And pharmaceuticals made me a junkie. I was a heroin addict. I did black tar heroin for 3 years before my son got ill. And I will tell you, ma'am, that these are real life issues. Addiction is a real life issue. And if I can keep my son from going through that, I will. And it's not talking down on anybody, because I used to be a junkie. In fact, what is today? Oh my gosh, guys, today is my 3 years sober.
Yeah!
It has been 3 years since I have taken a pharmaceutical or an illegal drug. And I've actually broken 9 bones in that amount of time and had 2 surgeries and a hysterectomy. I did my hysterectomy as well without any narcotics. And for people to say that this is bringing a negative view to it, wait till your child gets cancer, honey. Then we'll see how negative you feel about it. And we'll see how negative you feel about sitting there doping them up every day and injecting your child with Oxycontin when there's something as simple as cannabis. And honestly, a lot of people ask us that. Well, why do you keep doing this? Screw the naysayers. Who cares what they say? One love. Are you gonna be there to help me out when if my child breaks a bone or God forbid has a relapse? Are you a doctor? Yeah. Are you going to be there when CPS shows up to have your obviously educated comments coming out of your mouth? No, you're not. And guess what? I have testified in front of Congress. I have testified in front of Senate. And my voice was heard. I wasn't kicked out like she was. Because I'm very respectful and I know how to say what I need to say to get my point across. And there can be 300,000 of us out here. Guess what? How many people are sitting on Congress that get to make our voting anything? There's literally like a few for each state. So it does not matter how many we are. We have to convince them. Okay? Look it up for every county, every city, whatever, how many elected officials you have. It's not even close to 1% of representing us. But yet, let's just forget about them, right? Because we're 3 million strong in the cannabis movement. Guess what? I need doctors. I need board certified doctors. I need senators and congressmen and people like that so that my child can go to school, so that my child can grow up and actually have a chance at living a life. You know, and that's why we tell people about our stories and what we've gone through, not to bring a negative view to this, not to do anything, but more than less to let you guys know, to all of the veterans that have been out here for years and years. You know, this is the 24th year. I'm sure a lot of you have been here for a lot of them. We will carry the torch on, and we won't carry it like her. We'll carry it respectfully. We will get into meetings with senators and congressmen and doctors and leukemia research scientists, for goodness sakes, because that's what we do on an everyday basis. We are here to carry the torch for you guys, we promise, and we will not let anybody down, because I think all of us have a family, and the family does matter, and that's what this is all about, is you cannot be a cannabis anything, user, activist, advocate, nothing without putting yourself and your children at harm. And I think we all know that. We've all seen it firsthand. So again, thank you guys for being here. I'm very sorry for that ignorant comment. That was terrible. Thank you guys so much for being amazing.
Thank you.
through that.
We have to make change to end the negativity that's associated with our industry. Change.
That's right. Drop the mic.
Is that it? Are we done?
We actually got time for one more question if you got time.
Does anybody else have a question?
Who's got a cat? Anybody who's got...
I really appreciate all of you guys up there. I'm not a grandmother yet, but I'm ready to be because I've been through the whole parental thing. And my door is locked because I do grow legally. And so the only people who come to my door come through because I welcome them. I do think, I just want to have a heart for this lady when people misspeak like that. I can only imagine the history there, so I want to lift the whole boat and just say that I think it's incumbent upon us to also welcome people when they have a challenging question. I just want to say that, and it shouldn't have been directed at you guys. But okay, so here's my question: is I think there are direct analogies between what you folks are dealing with and the general mental health situation
Absolutely.
in America.
Yeah.
And I just want to put out a plea for all of us to reach out, do the act of reaching out to our friends, our family, our extended family who are hooked on the incredibly toxic drugs that are just passed off at the end of one sentence, you know, when in the mental health profession. And to remind people, even if they're complete neophytes, that they have a gentle and dependable way to get off the heavy-duty toxins, and particularly the antidepressants, and a gentle way to heal. And this is incumbent upon all of us because we have a nation that refuses to ask, why are we all in so much pain? Right?
Yes.
So I want to get in the real conversation. Why are we in pain? And how are we, interacting with our plant world and each other in a way that's dignified and dictated by Mother Nature?
System daily.
There you go. I love that. And that should be taught in kindergarten. How about it?
Health class.
And I think cannabis for a treatment for everything. I lost 3 children before I had Madeline. I carried them very late in pregnancy. In fact, one child lived for a day. And I was put on antipsychotics, and they made me go crazy. My husband, I'm very sheltered. My dad's retired Navy, so I didn't know anything about cannabis. And my husband was like, here, you need to do this, smoke a bowl. And I smoked my first bowl, and I talked about my son, and I came to terms with letting him go. Parents can't do that. I have post-traumatic stress disorder for a reason that most women do not talk about pregnancy loss. I can guarantee that there's probably 2 women in here that have had a miscarriage, a stillbirth, late pregnancy loss, something, and we're given antipsychotics and told to get over it. That's not right. That's not fair. I don't want to be addicted to drugs.
I would actually call that emotional abuse.
Yes.
Yes.
Grieving is a
Psychological.
natural
It is.
part of life. We
Yes.
have to respect the grieving
And
process.
using cannabis, it's the only thing that helps me deal with on a daily basis, knowing that despite using cannabis, my daughter has bad days. We have days where we have to go to the hospital and have imaging for kidney stones, and then we have to use Tylenol. We have to use small amounts of Dilaudid to help her go through it, and it shouldn't be that way. I should be allowed to use cannabis, and there should be enough information for me to always use cannabis when I'm dosing her. I shouldn't need to use other medications, and until every parent is educated, people are going to be clueless to the fact that they could be giving their child something that can help them, that can help treat their disease in the long term instead of destroying their body, deteriorating quicker. Why is it that on hospice, you're given a care kit? They come to your home, they give you morphine, they give you methadone, they give you oxycodone. They literally give you a box of drugs for your child. And I am one of the first parents in our hospice service to ever refuse to use the care kit. Instead, I choose cannabis. And we're very fortunate that we're supported, and it's mostly because I take a very firm stance that I'm going to use cannabis, and if you don't like it, go ahead and tell on me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Let's hear it for this panel. Everybody, thank you so much. Megan Holt, Brandon Krenzler, Vika Thompson, and Sierra Riddle.
Thank you.
It's been great. Coming up, everybody's the state of the state here. We've got several leaders, people who are at the forefront of what's going on here in this chaos that is Washington. So stay tuned. In this one, I might have to put on a participant hat. I can't be moderate in the next presentation. I'm not moderator. I'm taking that hat off.